Well, let's have a chat now. It is what better way, in fact, to celebrate the Queen's birthday public holiday than to have a chat with Professor David Flint, who, as I said, he's the head of the Australians for a Constitutional Monarchy, and he was one of those who won. The main person, really, who won the Republican referendum back in 1999 for the monarchists. David, great to see you, and happy Queen Elizabeth birthday weekend. How are you, David?
Very well, thank you. And how are you, Rowan?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. So listen, David, we know that it's a public holiday today, but many of us probably don't really realise what we've had the day off for. So what's the Queen's birthday all about?
Well, the Queen's birthday is the oldest public holiday in Australia. It dates back to the King's birthday. It was celebrated not long after the arrival of the British into Australia. It is, as I say, our oldest public holiday, and it really celebrates that part of the Constitution which works well, works cheaply, works efficiently, and that is the Crown. The Crown is an essential part of the Westminster system. You can't have the Westminster system where the executive is in bed, as it were, with the lower house of Parliament without having some constitutional guardian above them. And the whole purpose of the Crown, under the present system of constitutional monarchy, which dates from just before Victoria, is that the monarchy gives us leadership above politics, and that's done through the Queen and the Viceroys, the Governor-General and the Governors. But it also provides a constitutional guardian who ensures that the Westminster system works properly and that Prime Ministers do not abuse their powers. And that role is significant. For example, if you go back to the double dissolution by Malcolm Turnbull, you follow the correspondence between Mr Turnbull and Sir Peter Cosgrove, the Governor-General, you'll see that the Governor-General makes certain conditions. For example, that the government have supply so that the pensions are paid, government salaries are paid, the army is paid and so on, and contracts are fulfilled, and that supply would continue until the next Parliament met. And it would have been open in that instance for Labor to have stalled the whole thing by refusing a grant of supply during that period. Labor didn't. They wanted an election because they thought they would win it. And the machinery of government worked smoothly. It's done very cheaply, it's smooth, and it costs very little. In fact, we pay nothing to the Queen or members of the royal family for their service, nor does the British taxpayer, notwithstanding what the media says. The monarchy is essentially self-funded through the Crown estate. It's an extraordinary system, and we've just seen the most wonderful of monarchs who has given 70 years of self-service. And we knew that. She promised us that when she turned 21 in South Africa. I'm old enough to remember when she said, "My whole life, whether it be long or short, is dedicated to your service and the service of the great imperial family to which we all belong." People usually drop the imperial part. I'm not at all embarrassed by empires because empires are normal. We're now really in the American empire. Otherwise, where would our defence come from? Whatever defence we will need in the next few years.
David, so we saw earlier on the screen, we just put up some of the hundreds of Australians who were honoured with gongs across the country today. So Shane Warne, Ash Barty, and there are a whole bunch of chief health officers who were in there. I'm not quite sure I agree with those. In fact, the only royal event that I think some of them should be facing, in my opinion, is a royal commission. But anyway, some great news. Sky's own Terry Galloway, he received a gong. Congratulations, Terry. Great news there. Well deserved. Now, David, you're right to mention the Empire situation, but as you wrote in a brilliant cover story in The Spectator Australia this week, Anthony Albanese has disgracefully delivered a slap in the face to our beloved monarch at the very time of the celebration of her 70 years that you mentioned. What did you make then of Erin's vox pops there about people's... Were you surprised? People seem very happy Do you think there really is this appetite for Albo's republic?
Not in the slightest. Even at the time of the referendum, we had none of the money, but we had the foot soldiers. We had people who were very emotional and strongly dedicated towards the monarchy. The Republicans had nobody like this. They had to rely on the Australian Labor Party to fund and work their polling stations and so on. And what we found, and if you look at the real polls, the genuine opinion polls, and the last one was Ipsos, taken for Australia Day, not this year, but the year before. They don't take many polls now because they come out the wrong way. But that poll showed that 34% of Australians supported some sort of vague republic. We know, though, that when they see the model, half of them say, that's not the one I want, much rather stay with the constitutional monarchy. The most interesting thing there, the time bomb, which the Republicans pretend didn't happen, is that the age group which was least interested in a republic. Remember, the overall feeling for a vague sort of republic was 34%. Well, among the 18 to 26, it falls, after all their education, it falls to 24%. Now, if you can't persuade the young to make this radical change, which is going to cost billions, and apparently now going to involve an election every 5 years, which will be enormously expensive, where the Australian people will be allowed to choose between one of the people that the politicians have chosen. The politicians in all states and territories in the Commonwealth will choose the candidates. That's the sort of shonky model which is being proposed, and they'll then choose another politician. So we'll have a politicians' republic. The best motto that we developed, and was done by the Victorian director, Rick Brown, was vote no to the politicians' republic. And people immediately smelt a rat. Yes. And that is that the politicians were taking the system, getting rid of the constitutional guardian, and putting in the place of the constitutional guardian, providing leadership beyond politics, and putting another of their own breed there. And this is completely wrong. And this is what the Prime Minister is proposing when he delivered that incredible slap in the face to the Queen. Fancy appointing. He said it's not on till it's a second term agenda issue. So why did he appoint? Why did he arrange the appointment of an assistant minister for the Republic? The Republic. That's rubbish. It's some form of politicians' republic which they haven't yet revealed, though the Australian Republican movement has this extraordinary model which requires each of the territory and state parliaments to produce some politician. The Commonwealth will produce 3, and then in this system of guided democracy, the Australian people will be asked in a tremendously expensive poll to choose another politician and put that politician in among the others. And
so let's take a quick
complete failure.
Let's take a quick guess. It'll be, you'll have the choice between President Turnbull or President Rudd. Which is it going to be, David? Which would you vote for? You can imagine how this thing is going to go.
Well, I'd be voting informal. In fact, I'd refuse to vote. I'd refuse to go along there, even if.
And off to the tower with you. Off to the tower. Professor Flint, we've got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Credlin on the Queen's birthday weekend. Thanks so much.